My name is Tamika Johnson. I teach at A.B. Hill Elementary. I teach functional skills second and third grade. The role of the special education teacher in supporting learning and improving planning is um, I like to think of it as the everything, basically. Long story short, I'm a special education teacher, and so basically, when I'm planning my lessons, I like to think of everything that I can possibly think of to improve my students' success. And so, when I create a lesson for reading and I want them to be able to identify the characters, I have to think about my students who are nonverbal, and so I create visual aids so that they can answer a question. I have visual aids that may say yes, or they may say no, or they may say the girl or the boy. They have pictures, and some of them have just the pictures, and then some I have the pictures and the words. And so that is where I scaffold based on the students that I have. I go as far as making sure I have manipulatives for my students. Like if we're doing math, then we're adding or we're subtracting. I like to use a highlighter if we're doing writing and I want my students to be able to stay within the lines, or if I want them to trace, or I like to, some teachers do highlighters, some may do dot to dot, some just kind of let their students freestyle. I just like to do whatever I have to do to make sure my students have success, basically. So if it includes letting them speak into my cell phone, because a lot of times I have my cell phone at work. So um, during a lesson, I may ask my students to read a sentence and I may ask them to use my phone and I record them. And that makes them more willing to do it if they think they're doing something unique. And so I think that is the role of a special education teacher. You just making sure that they have whatever they may need to be successful. Um, the disposition I currently possess uh, or I think that helped me become a successful teacher, is basically I believe that all my students are able to learn. Even if it's just the smallest thing, I think they are capable of learning. I have some students who this year who just learned how to focus, just learned how to look at something. I could put something in front of their face, and this particular student, or not just one, but several, they couldn't look at what was in front of them. They would, look the other way or look this way or turn their head the opposite direction, and they just could not look at what was in front of them. And so that is learning, because in order for them to move on and be able to copy a sentence or copy a letter or learn a letter or look at a video or a picture, anything or an object, they have to be able to focus. So that's learning. Um, as far as, like I said, I just want to make sure my students have growth, that they reach their highest potential of learning. So if that comes with learning how to sit at a table, or learning their letters, or learning addition, or learning subtraction, or learning how to read, or from reading letters to reading words to reading phrases to reading paragraphs to reading whatever the highest that I feel like, and not necessarily but I'll just keep challenging them. That's what I do. I just keep challenging them, and if it becomes a frustration level, then I try to scale back. And I was like, okay, let me move back, and let me try this, and that's pretty much a little bit of me. Um, and I think I've already said that I've currently teach at A.B. Hill Elementary. I've been there for 5 years. Prior to teaching at A.B. Hill, I taught at Westwood Elementary. I taught resource. But I think my passion is teaching functional skills because I get to do more individualized lessons and more small group lessons. Um, and like I said, I can differentiate from the smallest thing to the largest thing to make sure my students succeed. Um, the last thing I wanted to address was personal biases that can have an effect with your relationship with parents. Um, I think a personal bias that could have an effect is sometimes religion can affect how your relationship with your parents, and that's why I tend not to really bring up religion or genders or because I come into that a lot with parents. Like everybody is living different lives, and you meet all sorts of types of people. And the last thing I want to do is, pass judgment. Um, my main thing is making sure that I'm teaching the child, and it has nothing to do with what the family has going on in their personal lives. And so I try not to entertain what's going on personally in their, homes, unless it involves, abuse. And abuse we can't tolerate, and I will um, call whomever I need to call if I suspect abuse. But as far as personal relationships, like if it's um, genders or just whatever that's going on in people's personal life, because I have ran into a lot of parents and they all have different stories and they're all just different, and I don't allow it to affect the way I treat my students, and I don't allow it to affect the way I instruct my students. um, I'm here to give them 100%, and that's pretty much it. Nice to meet you. Come back again.